Hi everyone, down at the Point Depot here in the Dublin Docklands. Very famous music venue here in Dublin City. Many concerts for many years have been held here and many artists have performed. But today I want to speak about the European Union and the push towards more war. Over the past few months we've seen von der Leyen push this agenda towards rearming Europe, where they're going to spend up to €800 billion on so-called defence spending, which is again bolstering the profits of the military industrial complex. And of course, in the last few days we've seen Trump in the Netherlands and Mark Rutte referring to him as the daddy and demanding that the Europeans boost their spending as a percentage of GDP for, inverted commas, defence. And of course they're all too willing to go along with this. But what also is very important with this is at the meeting in Brussels on Friday, there was an agreement reached around a new European Union defence initiative called the Security Action for Europe, known as SAFE for short. This is a new deal where they're going to estimate up to €150 billion of funds are going to be released through mechanisms such as long-term loans to countries, so they can work on a joint procurement process in terms of accessing weapons, artillery and more military equipment, work on cybersecurity, subsea cables, or whatever you have in yourself, according to Martin and of course the Minister for Foreign Affairs himself, Simon Harris, all too willing lapdogs of the European Union rather than standing up for Irish neutrality. Same people who are eroding the triple lock at the moment. But what's important with this is they're going to access new funding streams to buy these weapons and military equipment. And it's going to be through Eurobonds, stroke war bonds, that they're trying to set up in the European Commission. Long-term loans, and they're going to access other funding mechanisms. So there's some approaches with this, because this is interesting. Because really what this is a drive towards is eroding so-called treaties that were agreed with the European Union in terms of the advancement of money for moving towards military advances. And that's really what fundamentally is taking place here. And of course, Article 41.2 of the European Treaty will claim that it violates these European treaties in terms of the increase in military spending. Now, this is very, very interesting, because at the same time we've seen Article 122 of the European treaties being used, or European Union treaties being used for so-called emergencies, and they're trying now to access funding claiming emergencies. Remember the times during COVID when the bonds were issued, COVID bonds, which were just a big transfer towards the very rich in society and the billionaires and the corporations at the expense of ordinary people. And previously, remember the time of Ukraine, in terms of opening the door to Ukraine for more money through various facilities. This again is more of the same, using the mechanisms through the European Commission to issue bonds, which again is the final piece in the jigsaw towards the total capture of power in terms of countries that could issue their own bonds. Now it's down to the European Commission to decide on this, using the example of an emergency, which again is anything but an emergency. But this is the sort of narrative that they're pushing out there on society and through their media friends as well. Now, of course, the goals of this security action for Europe would include the military capacity, bolstering the military capacity of all countries, and getting them then to borrow, to boost up their percentage of, inverted commas, defence spending of GDP, and then have long-term loans, up to 40, 45-year loans, to pay it back. So indebt these countries for years and years, like they've always done, and pay back loans that for weapons of war. Just lunacy. Just lunacy. This is the same European Union that's funding and supporting von der Leyen, Israel, for instance. And not to mention the Pfizer contracts herself. And she's facing a motion by a number of MEPs in terms of no confidence because of her Pfizer-gate dealings with Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer. What was it, 10 jabs for every person? 12 jabs, and those mysterious text messages which have gone missing. But of course, Martin, Harris, and the media will say nothing about this. So as the drive towards war and the erosion of Irish neutrality continues, this is what's taking place. And of course, there's no discussion or debate around this. People are distracted with other issues, with the media. Joe Duffy leaving, RTE perhaps. Not the real issues that are happening on the ground while people are being distracted by what's taking place. But again, please share my videos, please subscribe to my channel and comment on all my videos as well, because it's vitally important to get the message out to what's really taking place in our society and how our sovereignty is being destroyed also, along with our neutrality. And it's vitally important now that more and more people are aware to what's taking place behind closed doors at these meetings, where they're agreeing to more long-term shady deals, like they did with the bank bailout as well. They're doing the same thing now with this drive towards war and erosion of Irish neutrality again. But again, thanks so much for the support. I really appreciate them. Please subscribe to my channel. So from Dublin, Slán, take care. Bye bye.